Alright, so this is your video on the Pythagorean Theorem, so make sure you have the right foldable. Make sure you are in your notebook or on a sheet of paper. You will need glue. It should already be cut for you, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So we always want to title our page Pythagorean Theorem, and this is named after Pythagoras, if you're wondering. You don't need to know that for your quiz, but just good information. And so we're just going to go ahead and get started on our foldable. That's just going to fit in just like this. So again, you'll just be gluing that in at the end. No extra notes today. So we first want to start with our formula. So as you can see, this is for right triangles only. So Pythagorean Theorem lets you know about right triangles. So that's important, so let's just get that down. So it's for right triangles. Okay. So this will tell you if your triangle is a right triangle or not. So the formula, as you can see, you have this side that says A. I know it's a little dark, but you have this side that says B. So that is a B right there. So if you can't see it, just write B. And then you can't see this side because it's so dark, but this side is C, and I just wrote it on the edge. So you have your sides A, B, and C of your right triangle, and then you have these squares here that they form. So you have this square, and of course we'll call this A squared. So this is A squared. You have B squared, and again, just arrow. And then here you have C squared. Okay? So, this just tells us that when we square the sides of a right triangle, the two smallest sides squared will equal the sides, the C squared, the largest side. So that would give you the following formula. It would give you A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So this is the formula that we're going to use when we're using the Pythagorean Theorem. And again, it just says that when you square the sides of the smallest sides, they will equal the square of the largest side. So if we open this up, these all have names, so we want to make sure we understand the names. So sides A and B are called the legs. So these are the legs of your right triangle, while side C is called the hypotenuse. That is a real word, hypotenuse, okay? So again, you have your side A, you have your side B, and you have your side C. So again, this is a leg, here is a leg, and here is your hypotenuse. And again, everything I write, you should be writing. So again, our formula is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. You could also write that it is leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. So remember, the longest side is your hypotenuse, and that's so important to know, so we want to make sure we write that. The hypotenuse is the longest side. It'll always be the longest side. And then leg A and B are interchangeable. They're your smallest sides, your smaller side. C is not interchangeable. It'll always be your longest. C will always be this diagonal here. So it's important to know the hypotenuse is the diagonal. And I'm going to talk a little louder because the air just kicked on, so let's keep going. So this is how we find the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse, I'm just going to give you some steps. Of course, the hypotenuse is your longest side. It's this side here. And again, you may have to like kind of fold it out a little bit more just to see this for this part. So this is your longest side. It's C. Okay, so we're focused on that. So we're trying to find C. So let's open it up and let's practice. So we have two problems, and we're looking for the hypotenuse, which is here. Okay? And so we're just going to use our formula, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And we're going to plug in what we know. So we always want to do our steps. And so let's label our steps on the front. Step 1, you're going to label all sides. A, B, or C. Step 2, you're going to substitute in values for A, B, and C. And then the last step, you're just going to solve. And so in this case, we're going to solve for C because we're solving for the hypotenuse. So solve for C. Make sure you get this down. Label all sides A, B, or C. Substitute in values for A, B, and C. Solve for C. So we're getting C by itself. So back to our regularly scheduled programming. So let's go ahead and label. So we know this is A. We know that this is B. And we know that this is C. And so you really need to know your perfect squares for this. It's just going to help you be successful. But you definitely can use a calculator. If you have a graphing calculator, so let's first plug in our A. So again, A is just 28. It's not squared yet. So we want to make sure we keep that squared there. Our B is 21. Again, not squared yet. And then we bring down C squared. So understand, these are just the sides. This is not the actual square. So we have to still square these. So again, taking my graphing calculator, and I'm doing 28 squared. So it gives us 784. And then you have 21 squared. I'm doing it off the camera. 441. Again, this equals C squared. We're going to go ahead and add these two together. It gives you 1,225. And again, the opposite of squaring is to take the square root. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. And then to put that in the calculator, you're just going to hit second and put the square root sign. We're going to put 1,225. And so the answer is 35. And so your answer is 35 centimeters. And again, you never want to forget your units. And that is our C. Okay? Try the next one on your own by pausing the video and then unpause it when you are finished. So again, I'm going to keep going, but pause it and then unpause it to see the answer. So you have A squared plus B squared equals C squared. We're going to label our sides. So again, now my A is on this side. My B is down at the bottom. My C is still the hypotenuse, which is this diagonal. And now we're going to plug it in. We have 24. We want to make sure we square it. We have 32. Make sure we square it. And then you have C squared. So you have 24 squared, which is just 24 times 24, which is 576. 32 squared, which is 1,024. And that equals C squared. You're going to find the sum. So you're going to add it together and get 1,600. The opposite of a square is the square root. So take the square root of both sides. That's going to cancel out this 2 and this radical sign. And the square root of 1,600 is going to be 40. And again, we have 40 miles equals C. So it's important to know that the square root cancels out that squared sign. And that is how we find C using our Pythagorean Theorem formula. Okay? So now we're going to go back to the front and we're going to find a leg. So again, your legs can be B or C, or B or A, excuse me. So B or A. So it's either going to be A or it's going to be B. So these are your legs that we could potentially be finding. And the steps are actually going to be the same as to find the hypotenuse. You're going to, step 1, you're going to label all sides A, B, and C. You always want to do that first. Step 2, you want to substitute, which we know just means to plug in values for A, B, and C. And then our last step is to solve for your leg, which could be A or B, depending on how you label it. So again, make sure you pause the video to make sure you get all of this down, but definitely make sure you are copying this and understanding that this is how we find the legs. So let's open it up. And so in this first one, we're actually looking for B. Now remember, your legs are interchangeable, so you can actually call A and B either side. So it's up to you. And so I accidentally just made that mistake. So that is A. This should be your C. So make sure you write C there. Don't make the mistake I made. So this is C, this is A, this is B. And so now let's just go ahead and write our formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So again, we have 8 squared plus B squared, we don't know, equals C squared, which is 10 squared. Okay, so 8 squared we know is 64. B squared is just B squared, and 10 squared is 100. So again, we're getting this B squared by itself, which means we have to figure out what's the opposite of addition. The opposite of addition is subtraction, so we're going to go ahead and subtract 64 from both sides. So this B squared comes down, and now we're doing 100 minus 64, which is going to be 36. To get rid of this squared, we know we have to do the opposite of a squared, which is the square root, because this is going to cancel. And we know that the square root of 36 is just one number multiplied by itself that gives us 36, and we know that's going to be 6. And we want to make sure we put centimeters. So again, when you're finding a side, you have to get that B or A by itself by doing the opposite of addition, which we know is subtraction. Let's do the same on this side. So this side we're missing our A. So we're given B and we're given C. And so now we're just going to set it up. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So again, we don't know A squared, so we can leave that there. B squared is going to be 12 to the second power, and then C squared is 15 to the second power. I would always write it out like this versus just writing 144 down and whatever 15 squared is, 225, because it just reminds you that you had to do that step. So skipping that step could create some error. And again, I hope you pause it so you can try this on your own and see if you got it. If not, it's okay, keep going. But if you want to, go ahead and pause it to make sure that you can try this on your own. A squared, we want to get by itself, so we have to do the opposite of plus 144, which is minus 144. So that cancels. This comes down. You have 81. Again, we have to get rid of this squared sign. So again, the opposite of a squared is the square root. It kind of undoes that squared. And you want to take the square root on both sides. So now we just need one number that when multiplied by itself gives us 81. That's what square root means. You're trying to find that one number that times itself will give you the number underneath the square root sign. So we know that 9 times 9 is 81, so it's going to be 9 here, and again, inches. And that will give us the side for A. Not the square, but the side, okay? 81 would have been the square, but we want just the side, which is A. And so that is 9 inches. So again, if you're still confused, feel free to ask me any questions or go back and rewind and practice some more. Remember, you're going to glue this into your notebook just like this. So again, you should just take the glue it in. Should fit perfectly in your notebook, so you have this for your notes on your assessment. And then you're going to just flip the page, and you're going to do your activity work on the back in here. and make sure you show all your work and come see me to get it checked. Alrighty, happy working!